Hello, people. Let's try that with the mic not muted. Hello, everyone. I hope you're doing well. My name is Mark Dolfini. You are here joining me in Strategic Boardroom because you want to learn about how to create a business plan for your business, your existing business, or even just a business idea that you have and you want to put some legs to it. You want to put some foundation under that business idea that you have. Or if you have an existing business and maybe you're trying to get a little bit more clarity, maybe you're trying to get a little bit, some things thought through, you're trying to get just things aren't running as smoothly as they could, a business plan could certainly help. Maybe you are trying to expand into a different market or chase down a different avatar. That will certainly help as well. So, we've got a lot to cover here in Business Plans 101. There's a tremendous amount of information here, and I'm going to do my very best to get this delivered to you in as quickly as we possibly can. So if you are joining me, whether you're on broadcasting this across Facebook and LinkedIn, as well as YouTube, and for those of you who are also joining me direct on through Eventbrite on StreamYard, it is really good to see you. So let me know where you're from, and if you are in business, that's great. If you have an idea for a business, that's great too. Let me know what that is in the comment section so I can really try to get this more specific to you as best as I possibly can. So more specific you can be about your business, that would be more helpful. All right, so we've got ARP. I'm sorry, my goodness, ARPIC. Sorry, ARPIC. That is, you're in North Carolina. Looks like you're in data and IT products. Very good. All right, very good. Thank you for joining me today. It's good to see you. I've got a couple of things here. I'm trying to move around again. Man, StreamYard just keeps making me want to work for this. I don't know why it keeps changing things up on me. All right, and give me one hot second here. I think that'll do it. All right. Okay, so we got that settled here. I've got a couple of other folks who are joining me from YouTube. Let me know again where you're from and what line of work that you're in, because we have a lot of information to cover here. And again, it's gonna be a little bit over an hour, probably just about quarter past the next hour, and it's going to be a lot of information. But here's what I want you to do. First and foremost, in terms of what to expect. Hi, Kara. You are from Cape Cod, Mass. Very good. Opening a wine and liquor store. Fantastic. Very good. Well, welcome, Kara. And Caroline is starting a therapeutic consulting and counseling place. That is fantastic. Very good, Caroline. Good to have you. So that is, and let me know where you're from, Carolyn, just so again, so I can have an idea of where your avatar might be. So this is one of the things that I want to make sure of, and as you guys and gals are joining and piling in, I want to make sure just a couple of quick things. Some of you have already messaged and you'd said, hey, I can't stay for the whole thing. Am I able to get the replay? Yes, you'll get the replay. For those of you who are already subscribed to the YouTube channel, there'll be a replay that's going to be uploaded. So you'll get the live session. There'll also be an uploaded session that'll be a little bit carved up. And you're in North Dakota. Excellent. Man, you guys had a heck of a winter. I'm your neighbor to the east. I'm in Indiana, and we had a heck of a winter. So I know North Dakota, you guys must have got it pretty bad. All right. It's actually pretty pleasant out. It's actually in the 60s today. Wow, 61 is what it's saying right now. So yeah, spring can't come soon enough. So for those of you again who have joined or if you've signed up through Eventbrite, again, you're going to be getting a replay directly sent to your email inbox. But again, if you'd like to see it, if you'd like to see this and other videos that are very similar, you can go to YouTube and look them up there. But a couple things real quick. I want to make sure that you're not multitasking, because there's going to be a lot of information that's going to be put out in a very short period of time. And I don't want you to miss a nugget that could really change things for you. So that's my first thing. Second thing is, if you do have questions, go ahead and type them in as you have them. And I have some natural stopping points where I can pick up and answer questions along the way. So let's take a look. We've got Ahmed, who has, let's see, Ahmed is from the UK. Welcome. And interested in starting my own business here and have a few ideas related to the food industry. Excellent. Very good. And this will certainly help you in lots of different areas as you're looking to get into creating your own business plan, and how that's going to, like, the target market, the different aspects of putting together a business plan. And there's different reasons for putting together business plans. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to give you a traditional business plan template here in a little bit, and I'll show you how you can download that. You don't have to give me your, really any information. I'm just going to show you how to do that directly from my webpage. The other thing, I just want to make sure again that you're not multitasking and that you're putting up questions as you have it, but also stay engaged, because that lets me know if what I'm saying is resonating or if I'm not saying is not resonating. So that's just helpful for me as well, just because I can't see your faces, so I don't really know. Again, I see a bunch of people just joining at the same time. Hello, if if you are just joining us, let me know where you're from and what business idea that you have or what line of work that you're in. Because again, we're going to be covering Business Plans 101. So first and foremost, we're getting into a strategic approach to managing your life and your business. And I know that sounds a little militant, but strategic, all that means is top down. And that there's really no point in getting super granular on things if you're not going to really have a good strategy that backs that up. And that's the important thing. It was Sun Tzu, who was a Chinese military general several hundred years ago, who had said that strategy, or that tactics before strategy, is the noise before defeat. You don't want to put tactics before strategy. You want to make sure your strategy is first, and then you're going to align your tactics with that strategy. So strategy again is like up here, and the tactics are down here. So they're more granular things. So we're not going to get into a lot of granular things today, because that's not the nature of what business planning is. It starts from top down. So I will be giving you a framework that I use for business planning, and you're going to take that information and you're going to use that for when you're plugging that into your business plan. It's just going to make things a lot easier for when you're doing the actual business plan. And what are the business plans for? There's lots of different ideas of why you might need a business plan. You might have investors for your business. You might have you might need to take this to a banker. You might have other investors who might be interested in it, or it's just simply for clarity, so you can get some clarification. So when you bring that internally to your people, you can say, nope, this is part of the business plan. It doesn't mean that you have to follow it rigidly. Of course not. But it does give you an idea of things that you have thought through in advance. So I really do see a large benefit to having a business plan, but it does not pigeonhole me into acting in that specific way. It just kind of gives me a guideline in terms of what direction that I want to head in. Okay, we've got a few other people joining us. We got Enrique from the LA area. Very good. Let me know what line of work that you're in, Enrique, or what business idea that you have. And we've got Michelle Finch. Please email me the recording. Michelle, if you signed up through Eventbrite, you will get it automatically. Or you can also find it sent to, or if you'd like to find it in YouTube, you can find it there as well. All right. So who is this for specifically? Who is this business plan session for? Who is this really designed for? Well, it's really for either new or established businesses. And that's just pretty straightforward. If you've got a new business idea, and you're just trying to get some clarity, you're trying to figure out a target market, you're trying to figure out a product, you're trying to figure out even your core values, this is what this is for. And it's really important, especially if you're just starting out, to take time to plan for this. I cannot tell you how many times people have gotten started and things that should have been thought of years earlier, they never really thought about them, and now it's coming back to bite them. So the more planning you can do up front, it's going to save you not only massive amounts of money, it's going to save you massive amounts of time. So you're not relearning and doing things that you probably should have done with a little bit of planning up front, rather than being mired in something later on. And a lot of times, you can give birth to this business that has really massive birth defects if you would just take a little bit of time up front to plan for it. All right. So I just want to make sure that you understand that. The other thing is, if you have an established business and you're trying to grow that business, or you're trying to release a new product, a new service, you're trying to get into a new market, maybe you're going after a new client base, what I would call a client avatar. If anything like that is new, again, a business plan can certainly help. One quick thing I want to offer to you guys, and I'm just going to mention this right now, is the school community. And I'm just letting you know, for a lot of people who come to me and they're like, oh man, I really like this, but I really need more help. I don't generally just work one-off as a strategist. As a strategist, I tend to work with people over time. But this school community here, I'll mention this here again at the end, but there is a cost to this. I'm just letting you know. I'm not just going to put it up there and say, oh, here Okay, can you guys hear me okay? I can get a thumbs up. Yep. Okay, yeah, Carolyn, I think we all lost the connection there. I got a notification from StreamYard that it seemed it might have been on their end. So give me just a hot second here to get this. There we go. Okay. All right, I'm getting a thumbs up. Yep. All right. Cool now. Carolyn lost the connection, but good now. Okay. I am really sorry. I don't know. This has not happened before. Um, not with this. So, okay. Enrique, you have a question. Let's keep rolling. My main and immediate business idea is a family and kids center, perhaps uh, or I'm assuming you mean profit or nonprofit. Okay, very good. Very good, Enrique. Thank you. Looks like we're back on. Okay, very good. All right. Sorry, everybody. I don't know what happened. I don't know. My internet's good on my side, and I don't know. Okay, let's keep rolling. So anyway, I was talking about the school community. The reason I'm bringing this up is because there is a lower priced alternative that I have for group coaching if you're interested. So I'm just going to put this up now. I'll mention it here again at the end, but I just want to make sure that you knew I do have an offer. If you guys you're thinking this is all great, but I'm lost, I do have some options there if you are interested. So let's get to the agenda for today. All right, so we're going to talk about the frameworks, the specific personal and business framework to get your best business and your best life. We're going to talk about the people that you need. We're going to talk about leadership and management. Those are very important things as you are putting together this business plan, and also the four core functions of business, which is true for that. It's got to be true for every single business. And if you don't have all four of these functions, you just have a side hustle at best. Then we're going to talk about scaling, or at least growing. Growing and scaling are not the same things, but obviously being prepared for your growth. And I'm just letting you know, again, what's the point of the business plan if you're actually not planning on growing this thing or scaling this thing into something truly special. And then, of course, we'll talk about resources at the very end. So let's get to the systems piece. The systems component right here is everything that I'm going to be talking about is related to this book over my shoulder or the book that you see on the screen. It's the Time Wealthy Advantage. I published this book back in May of last year. If you are outside the US and you'd like to get a copy, your best bet is to get it on Amazon. If you are inside the US and you'd like it signed and a couple of other benefits, you can get it on strategicboardroom.com. Again, not here to promote the book or push it. It just, if you are seeing the Viper methodology and you'd like an expanded version of what's in there, it's in that book. So the Viper framework, this is a top-down approach to your business. So everything in here is what you're going to use and extract to put into a business plan later. Okay? So I'm just giving you an easier framework of reference, a frame of reference, so you can use some of this information later. It'll make sense when you get to the very end and you can download the business plan template. And that's 100% free. I'll just show you how to do that here in a minute. So the Viper framework is an acronym for Vision, Infrastructure, Process, Execution, and Reporting. It's a top-down approach to how you look at your life and your business. Because let's face it, your life and your business, those things are very much intermingled. And the problem that I see is most people, especially most business people, they only consider their business vision and they never really give any consideration to their personal lives. That's why vision has two components. It is made up of personal vision and of business vision. Let's talk about personal vision. Personal vision is specifically about where do you want to go in your life? Like, what do you want it to look like? Enrique, what do you want your life to look like? Michelle, what do you want your life to look like? Those of you who just joined, what do you want your life to look like if it wasn't defined by income generation? If your job description wasn't also a life description? We're talking about Business Plans 101, and you're thinking, well, what are we talking about here? Are we talking about life stuff or are we talking about business stuff? Yes. The answer is yes. We're talking about both. And what I want you to think about is if your life wasn't defined by income generation, if you were standing in a backyard barbecue and someone asks you, what do you do? Right? Which is pretty typical for people to ask, hey, what do you do? Right? And all of a sudden your job description becomes this life description. I want you to think about if you woke up tomorrow with $30 million or 30 million pounds or 30 million euro in your bank account tomorrow, and you didn't have to worry about income generation, fine, go spend a bunch of money on buying random stuff. But 30 million units of what I just told you is not a lot of money. You're going to have to be a good steward of money still. But so what would your life look like from a day-to-day perspective? That's what I'm talking about. What's your vision for your relationship with your significant other? What's your vision for your relationship with your spouse? What's your vision for your relationship with your children, with your parents, with your siblings, with your friends? What's your vision for your relationship with health? What's your vision for your relationship with your faith? And all of these different things, these different aspects of your life. And it's important that you define this stuff now. And the reason for that is because I'm not going to get too preachy on this, but the thing is, if most of the time people spend, especially business owners, I see business owners, they spend so much time on their business vision. Business vision is going to ask you that simple question. Okay, cool. Now that you've got this personal vision defined, business vision is going to be like, cool, how are we going to get there? And that's the thing where I see oftentimes where I've sat in masterminds and conferences and seminars next to people who were legitimately knocking it down in their personal lives, or in their business lives. And, they're making 6 and sometimes 7 figures a month net. Like, that's what they were taking home. And their home life was a train wreck. And you know what they were more worried about? Making more money, making an extra comma in their bank account. Meanwhile, they've got a barn fire mess going on at home. And that's what I'm saying. And what happens here is that the danger in that is when you create a business vision before you create a personal vision, you end up creating a life that exists to serve the business. And I'm just telling you that sucks. It's just an empty well that never gets filled in. So I'm going to give you a couple tips to fabricate and create a personal vision for you. And then the rest of what we're going to be talking about today is going to be about business vision. So just hang in there for 1 second. We got Michelle, who is from Ireland, opening a law firm. Welcome, Michelle. That's amazing. We've got Enrique, productive life that leaves legacy in my community. I love that. I think that's phenomenal, Enrique. Good for you. Michelle, yep, yeah, we had some connection issues, Michelle. I do apologize. All right. You are more than welcome. It's going to come directly to your email. I promise, Michelle. StreamYard will send it automatically. So I'm glad that you're getting benefit from this. So here's what I'm going to suggest for you in the personal vision. Okay. So the personal vision, what I want you to think about, a good way to consider this is your 100th birthday speech. Let's pretend that you're turning 100 years old. There you are. And you've got all your friends and family who you want to be there. Who would you want to be in the room? I want you to think about that. Who would you want to be in the room? And what would you say to those people in the room, right? You get helped up onto the little stage and there you are in front of all the people that you want. What would you say? After that, what would you want others to say to you when you were done speaking? And finally, what would be the message that you would want them to carry outside the room after everyone went home? So I want you to think about that. And you're thinking, well, 100 years, man, that's like 80 years from now, dude. Okay, I get it. Well, what about your next major milestone? What about if you're thinking about this from the context of like, well, okay, maybe you're 35. Okay, how about when you're 40? Or maybe you're like, hey, maybe when you're in your early 20s, how about my high school reunion? How about when your kids turn 18 or graduate from college? Whatever the next major milestone is for you, maybe consider that. Because what people who have real difficulty thinking about their future selves, they actually view them as a stranger. Like when you're looking at the bio exam, they'll look at what's going on in your brain, and a lot of times that's called future self discontinuity. And that's a real problem because people look at their future selves as a stranger, and that's where it becomes a little bit more problematic. So here's what I want you to do. We're going to put the fries in the bag on personal vision, and we're going to specifically talk about business vision now. Business vision is made of 3 components. So business vision is made of core purpose, core values, and client avatar. Now, I'm just letting you know, anytime I get hired as a strategist, anytime I am working as a fractional CSO, Chief Strategic Officer, and I'm working with the people in that organization, one of these 3 areas is either missing or incomplete, or all three of these areas are often missing or incomplete. And it's interesting because this right here is the gold. This is the thing that's really, truly important. Because when I see something falling apart, like people have difficulty in getting they're having trouble with their lead generation. They're having trouble with their staff. They have lots of staff turnover. They're having just issues with people not getting along. They're having issues with too much ad spend. Okay, or people are just, if they're coming in, they're not very loyal, right? It's almost always in one or more of these areas. So what we're talking about is foundationally setting up the DNA of your company. That's how important these three things are. And every single time I've been brought into an organization to help them out, one of these three areas, if they're defined at all, they're weakly defined at best. So let's talk about core purpose. Core purpose is specifically what business that you're in and what problems do you specifically solve. And it's important that you be highly specific in your answers. If you just tell me, like, for example, Michelle, and I'm just going to pick on Michelle for a second. Michelle says, hey, I'm going to be opening a law firm. That doesn't tell me a lot because I don't know what kind of law firm that could be. Now, here in the United States versus in Ireland, the laws are different, of course. But here in the United States, we have all sorts of different types of law, right? We have elder law for people who are older and are trying to establish estate planning and things like that, right? Or being taken care of by their families at later stages in life. There's criminal law. There is real estate law, and also there's all sorts of different types of law. There's constitutional law, right? And all sorts of business law. And so there's all these different things, contract law, all of these different aspects of law. That doesn't tell me much when Michelle says, I'm just going to looking to open a law firm. Okay, to do what? Right now, it's again, I'm just picking on her a little bit. I didn't give her enough opportunity to say what type of law firm, what area. But it's more important to be really specific, highly specific in what it is you're looking to do. One of my friends who I went to high school with, he is a not criminal defense. He is basically does a lot of civil suits, right? Where people, they're injury attorneys, right? They practice that kind of law. So if they get injured they get injured in accidents and things like that. That's what he represents. So again, all sorts of different aspects of law, and that's the kind of the lane that they stay in. Now they've done a few other things, but that's what I'm saying. That's really what his bread and butter is. So it's really important that you be really clear about your core purpose and be a little obnoxious about what you're not. Just say, no, that's not really what I do. That's probably a better referral for someone else. That's the core purpose, and you must be clear on that. Let's get to the core values. The core values is what matters to you about this business, and how would the world be worse off if you are no longer in business? That's critical. And I know you might be thinking, okay, this is, core values. Oh my gosh, that sounds so squishy. It sounds so too like, warm hug. No, I'm telling you that this is really, really important because the core values are what determine the DNA of the company. And the core values are what defines the company culture. And the company culture and the company brand are inextricably linked. You cannot separate the two. The core values is what's experienced by the people within the organization, the employees of the organization. The core, so that's the company culture. The company culture is what's experienced by the people within the organization. The company brand is what's experienced by people outside the organization. Make sense? So again, that company culture and the company brand, they are linked together. And that's why it's important to define the core values, because the core values help define the company culture and the company brand. So you might be thinking, well, how do I define my core values? I'm glad you asked. So let's say, for example, and we've got a bunch of people who just joined us today. Welcome. So for those of you who just joined, just let me know where you're at and what kind of business you're in. We have people literally all over the place. We have people from Ireland. We have people from the UK. We have people from here in the Midwest in the United States, North Dakota. It's probably just above freezing today. So I'm just letting you know, like, these are really important things, especially core values. Now, the core values, for those of you who have ever, let's say for argument's sake, if you ever lost a friend, like you had a friend that was heading down a path that you just were not willing to follow them down, yeah, that sucks. Like, we've had friends like that. I had friends like that, and they were starting to do things in their life that I wasn't willing to replicate. I wasn't willing to follow them down that path. And because I wasn't willing to follow them down that path, I ended up losing them as a friend. It's the way it goes sometimes. Sometimes that's a loved one. Sometimes that is someone we're romantically involved with. And that's very hurtful. But that violation represents a core value of yours. So a value is a core value when you're willing to take action on it. So for example, I value peanut M&Ms. Am I willing to go to war over peanut M&Ms? No. Someone breaks into my house and like, give me your peanut M&Ms. I'm like, dude, take them. I'm not going to get in a fight over peanut M&Ms, right? But someone breaks into my house and threatens my family, they're going to be met with a lot of fury because that is something that is a core value of mine. So what I'm saying to you is that when you're looking at core values, when you're looking at your core values, I want you to think of what's something that you value so much that you'd be willing to take action on, that you'd be willing to get up off the couch to take action on. That's the thing that would define a core value. And oftentimes they're represented in our excesses. So you might say, well, it's the excessively bad, which is when the friend, again, wanders off the reservation and you have to let them go. Or sometimes the excessively good, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm in heaven. I wish I could relive that moment over and over again if I could. Think about that. Think of those times that you had those excesses. Generally, they help determine, or at least give you the lines in the sand for where your core values are. So why is this important? Because our businesses are just an extension of us. So because your business is just an extension of you, you're not going to want to create a business that has a set of core values that doesn't align with you, right? No, that would be horrible. Has anybody ever worked for a company where you're working for a company where that doesn't align with your core values? Yeah, it's horrific. It's awful. I've been there. I know what that's like. So what I'm saying is you don't want to create a business where there's a place that you don't want to go to work. And that happens sometimes. This is why it's important to define your core values. So we'll leave that there, but it is important that you take that time to define, again, core purpose as well as your core values. We've got Carmen from Delray Beach, originally from New York City. Delray Beach, Florida, right? I think I know where that is. Business idea, community and employment. Not sure I understand. Okay. If you want to clarify that, Carmen, that'd be great. I'm glad you could join us today. So again, if you're just joining us, let me know where you're from and what line of work that you're in. And Carmen is saying, yes, Florida. Yep, that's what I thought. I made a connection down there recently of someone who was in the Delray Beach, was in the massage business. So very good. All right, so we talked about core purpose, and then we talked about, you said, I'm sorry, IDD, learning disabilities workforce. Okay, my apologies. Yep. Okay, I'm tracking what you're putting down now. Okay. Thank you, Carmen. So welcome. So what we're looking for, again, we talked about core purpose, being really specific in your core purpose, and also being specific in your core values. And the last one is your client avatar. This is one that is absolutely, it's like, again, the third leg of the stool. You have to have all of this put together. And the client avatar is who specifically and ideally do you want to serve. And it's really important that you get really clear on this. And that who could be one person, it could be a couple, it could be a group, it could be a team, it could be a board of directors, whatever, right? But think about who specifically and ideally do you want to serve? And I want you to think about them in terms of geographics, demographics, and psychographics. The geographics is where they are. The demographics is who they are. Are they married? Are they single? Are they divorced? Are they, do they have children? Do they have no children? Do they have grandchildren? Are they wealthy? Are they middle class? Are they poor? Who are these people that you want to help in terms of their demographics? And their psychographics is how they think and how they buy. How they think and how they buy. So get really clear about who this individual is. From a psychographic perspective, I want you to think of the phrase ALIA, A-L-I-A, and that is their attitudes, their lifestyles, their interests, and their aspirations and goals. So when you're thinking about this, you might think, okay, well, what's their attitude on education? What's their attitude on politics, right? Right now, everybody in the United States, there you got the fringe right, you got the fringe wackos on the right, and you got the fringe wackos on the left, and there's so many of us in the middle that are just kind of hiding under our desks. We're just like, oh my gosh, like, can we just get to can the adults enter the room again? So it's just, there's a lot of that. And so, but what are a lot of people's attitudes in terms of various different things, right? What's their attitudes on religion? What's their attitude on marriage? What's their attitudes, whatever. So again, a lot of times you can reach people because you have similar attitudes on things. What about their lifestyle? Are they young and jet setting? Are they young and homebodies, right? There's lots of people who are young that just kind of like to hang out at home. Are they older and they like to travel? Right? Those are the jet setters. Or are they older and they like to spend time with their grandkids? What's their lifestyle like? That's important for you to know. What are their interests? Are they interested in art? Do they like to read? Are they into sports? What kind of sports? Are they into World Cup soccer, or are they into American football? Do they like NASCAR, or do they like Formula One? Again, it's important to know their interests. So again, you can reach them much more effectively in your marketing. And that way, it's also important for you to know this, because again, once you kind of start to develop that avatar, you're going to know the best way to reach them. You're going to know the things that are important to them. The last one is their aspirations and their goals. If you know someone's goals and your product or service can directly or indirectly align with those aspirations, don't you think you'd want to know that? This is why it's really important for you to sit down and really research your avatar as much as you possibly can. I'm telling you, you cannot research your avatar too much, because you're always going to find a new way to reach them in one of those 4 areas: their attitudes, their lifestyle, their interests, or their aspirations and goals. All right. So really, really important that you take the time to go through that. So we're going to put the fries in the bag on the 3 C's of business vision. But here's the thing. If you don't do anything else I'm going to suggest in this training session, what I want you to do is I want you to go through these things right here. Which of these 3 things do you feel that you really have dialed in? You don't have to answer it if you don't want to. If you're like, nope, I really know my core purpose, but I kind of need to work on my core values and my client avatar, I'm really not sure yet. Okay, fine. Now you know what your marching orders are. But if these things aren't written down from a 1 to a 10, I'm telling you, none of them are more than a 5. None of them are more than a 5. You have to have them written down. And that's a really good thing to put together in a business plan. Okay. So let's keep rocking and rolling. So we talked about vision, and we talked about the 2 components of vision, which are personal vision and business vision. Let's keep rolling, and we're going to get to infrastructure. Infrastructure is the bones of the business. That's all of the mechanicals that you think about on the backside of the business. It's the things like your desks and your chairs. It's things like your computers, your software, your phone systems, things like that. And even your websites, even your payment processing platforms. All of those things are considered infrastructure. So this infrastructure is an absolute critical component to your business, and you have to plan for infrastructure. And all the different functions, and we're going to talk about the 4 core functions here in a minute, but the 4 core functions, you've got lead generation, sales, operations, and accounting. Each one of those functions is going to require infrastructure. It's absolutely critical that you consider what the bones of the business will need to be prior to setting it up. Now, you might say, well, Mark, if infrastructure is so important, why does vision come before infrastructure? I'm glad I asked. I'm happy to tell you. Let's pretend that let's say Michelle's vision, her personal vision, is to lay on the beach in Spain for 2 months out of the year rubbing cocoa butter on her belly. Okay, fine vision. The problem is, if she designs an infrastructure at her law firm where she's going to have to return emails and phone calls in a timely manner, that's going to be a horrible experience for her when she's trying to lay on the beach for 2 months out of the year rubbing cocoa butter on her belly. Make sense? So vision, personal vision, is always going to trump the business vision, because the business vision is delivering the personal vision. But you want to set up an infrastructure that's in alignment with that vision. Is that making sense? It's important that you know that. Don't just start setting up infrastructure without giving real consideration to your personal vision and your business vision. All right, it's important that you guys, so let me know if that makes sense as I take a sip of water because I'm getting a little dry. All right. I'll wait for you guys to go ahead and make a response. So here we are. We're talking about the Viper methodology, and this is what you're going to be using. This is the framework that you're going to be using to plug in all the different aspects of your business plan. Got Carrie saying makes perfect sense. Thank you, Carrie. Appreciate that. So let's get to the next component. We talked about vision. We talked about infrastructure. Now we're going to talk about process. Process, man, my nose just started running. Man, I've got all sorts of problems today. What is wrong with me? All right. Process is simply how you do stuff. Process is how you do stuff. Process is also broken down into two main components. There's a tactical part of process and there's a strategic part of process. Let's talk about tactical. Tactical, first and foremost, is just basically the stuff that you do day to day. It's your standard operating procedures. It's your checklist items. It's just stuff that you do from day to day, from how your opening procedures, your closing procedures, how you prepare bank deposits, just various things like that. And, even how you answer the phone. That's your tactical day-to-day stuff. And it's really just kind of boring stuff that you do every single day. If I was to draw a box around infrastructure and tactical process, okay, just like you saw on the screen there, that is your system. That's the systems component to your business. And the thing is, great, now that you've got this system, I want you to think of that as like your battleship. That's your warship that you just built. And now you can either leave that ship moored against the harbor, and now anytime the economic winds blow across the harbor, it's going to get battered up against the dock, just kind of, putting itself at the mercy of whatever economic winds happen to blow along, or you could take it out of the harbor and go make some trouble. And that is what strategy does. That's where it's saying, cool, strategy is where you plot the course to go do something with this business rather than just kind of setting it on autopilot and not taking any strategic direction. Okay. So that's what strategic planning does. So, Carrie is an insurance broker in Cincinnati, Ohio. Oh, you're only a couple hours from me. I'm in Lafayette, Indiana. Very good. Glad you could join me, Carrie. So when it comes to strategic planning, I break this down into three basic areas. You're breaking it down into people, you're breaking it down into purpose, and you're breaking it down into promotion. Let's unpack these just a little bit. When you're thinking of people, you're thinking of the human component that the people that you're trying to bring into the organization to help you. You're trying to think of the people that you might be targeting in this new marketing plan, depending on the purpose. We'll get to purpose here in a second. But the people component you have to think about. Again, when you're thinking about people, and let's say that you are going to be targeting a new target market, who does that have to align with? That's right. It has to align with a client avatar that you defined in the 3 C's of business vision. Because if the people that you're trying to attract don't align with that client avatar, what would be the point of trying to attract them? It doesn't make sense. You also have to think of the people who are going to service this new group of people, this new group of clients. And those would be people that you're going to be bringing into your organization. So just like, again, because you're bringing new people in your organization, they should align with what? That's right. They should align with your core values. You see how all of this is aligned? That's why you have to take the time to go through those 3 C's. Because if you don't take time to go through those 3 C's, you may attract clients that don't align with your core values. You may attract clients that really you don't have a core purpose for. You don't serve the core purpose for them in a really meaningful way. Or they don't like, okay, you're here, but you're not really the best fit for what it is that we do. Sometimes the best customer is a customer of someone else's, because otherwise they're just going to be a giant pain in your neck. So that's why you have to take the time to go through those 3 C's of business vision. So that's the people component, is not just the people outside the organization that you're trying to attract, which might be, again, new clients, but also new vendors, new suppliers, new contractors, new employees. The people component is what you have to consider in strategic planning. Let's get to purpose. Now you're starting to define the purpose of the strategic plan, which generally should be in alignment with what? And it's one of the 3 C's. That's right. Should be in line with your core purpose. Very good. If you said core purpose, go ahead and give yourself a high five. So long distance high five. All right. So that is important. So if you're thinking, oh, okay, well, my core purpose is to expand my market share. Right now, my market share is 30%. I want to expand my market share to 40%. Okay, great. So you're going to increase it by 30% in your market. Okay, great. So 30% to 40% is a pretty good jump. So that's what is the purpose? Or it could be launching a new product, could be launching a new service. It could be going after an entirely new segment of customers within your well-defined client avatar. Let's say that you really like working with married couples between the ages of 25 and 55. Maybe this is married couples that are between 35 and 40. That's a highly segmented market within your client avatar base. So whatever that purpose is, you have to think about that purpose, and it must be in alignment with your core purpose. Because if it's not, it would be confusing. It's confusing to everybody. It'd be confusing to your avatar. It'd be confusing to all the people that you have in your organization. It'd be like if Starbucks coffee started selling chainsaws. It would be weird, right? People like, what are we supposed to do, right? Am I supposed to hand the coffee to them on the bar of the chainsaw, right? Like that'd be strange, right? So you have to make sure that the core purpose and the strategic purpose are in alignment. The last one is promotion. Promotion is saying things and communicating things, but saying them a lot. That's what promotion means. Think of like everyone in your life suddenly becomes a teenager. and you have to repeat yourself a lot of times, okay? And I'm saying that somewhat tongue in cheek, but there's some great teenagers out there. I'm just saying no. But a lot of times you have to repeat yourself quite often. And that's just mean you have to say things many, many times to be promotive. So I'll give you a quick example. There is the founder of Chick-fil-A here in the United States. I don't think they're abroad yet, but there's a huge chicken company here in the United States called Chick-fil-A. Well, Truett Cathy, who is the founder of Chick-fil-A, he stayed at a Ritz-Carlton one time, and he heard one of the staff members say, "My pleasure." And he was so taken by that, he wanted that to be adopted from the hospitality industry into the restaurant industry. So they've got a lot of young teenagers that work at Chick-fil-A. And it's a fast food place, but it's a wonderful organization. So he said, I want all of our people to say, "My pleasure." So he goes to the national meeting for Chick-fil-A people, and he stands up and he's like, okay, this is what their new thing is going to be. And you think, he's the president of the company. He really should only have to say it once. Yep. 3 months later, he goes and he starts visiting a bunch of different Chick-fil-A's, and guess what? Zero adoption. No one's done it. No one's doing it. So he had to start promoting it and saying it again and again and again. And that's what promotion is like. So not just promotion externally with your marketing, your advertising, and everything else. Sometimes you have to promote the same idea over and over again within your own organization. So I want you to think about that. When it comes to strategic planning, it takes people, purpose, and promotion. All right. So again, if anybody has any questions along the way, feel free to just drop them in the chat and let me know if some of these thoughts are resonating with you. Say, yeah, that's something I really have to work on. Or, hey, man, I hadn't thought of that. Or, hey, I got that dialed in. Next, move on, coach. Right. All right. So we talked about the processes, which is both tactical and strategic. Or now we're going to execution. Now, execution is defined within the Viper methodology because Enrique, give me 1 second. So this is where execution has to have its own component because, again, most plans will fall apart in execution. This is why when General George S. Patton said this, a good plan violently executed now is better than the perfect plan executed next week. And that's true because most plans do fall apart in their execution. And it's probably because many people, and again, if I had 3 hands, I'd put them all up. Many people have way too many priorities. And the effect of having too many priorities, it has the same impact of having no priorities. That's the problem. If you have too many priorities, it has the same impact as having none. So you have to think about this. You have to boil these things down into what's called a daily 5. And the daily 5 are up to 5 highly specific actions that you can take, which will move the needle towards your vision or your strategic plan. One of the two. And I say up to 5 because if I didn't say 5, you're going to have like 35 things on your to-do list that you're going to get done today. Anybody like that? Anybody who's got that list of 35 items that they're going to get done today, right? And it was probably the same list yesterday. This is what will prevent that. For me, 3 is the magic number. If I have a daily 3, I know that I'm going to hit my daily 3. But I'm talking about highly specific actions that you can take that are going to move the needle towards your goal. I'm not talking like check voicemail. No, that's not it. I'm talking about one of those 5 things would be like right now what I'm doing. I'm hosting a webinar, and I host a webinar most days. And that's one of my daily 5 actions. So that's what I'm saying. What are the very specific actions that you can take that are going to move the needle toward your strategic plan or your personal vision? All right. We've got Dragonfly. Oh, hey, I know you. It's good to see you. Glad you could join me here on YouTube. Yep. I know where you live in Indiana. You live in my hometown. All right. Enrique, are all business ideas equal? I was told a business is different from hobby. I would agree with that because hobbies cost money. Hobbies cost money, right? Like think about all the hobbies out there. Golf. I'm a shooter. I'm a pistol shooter, so I can tell you that's a very expensive hobby. Is there a way you advise to evaluate its future merit and make sure it won't be obsolete? Think Blockbuster, Radio Shack, old school. I know. No, that's a great idea, Enrique. I think you've got 2 or 3 different questions in there. So like, again, you're looking at the companies that have gone bankrupt that no longer exist. And there's tons of them. Again, Blockbuster, Radio Shack, Circuit City, Kmart, Sears is dying. I mean, and I think there's actually one Blockbuster store left. But the thing is, when you're looking at this, you're asking about merit versus asking about different business ideas that are equal. So here's the thing. If you are growing into an expanding customer base, you're generally pretty safe. Like right now, AI is all the rage. Everyone is trying to get on the AI platform or AI train. And I get that. So if you're serving an expanding customer base, I think you're pretty safe. But you also, and I don't have this in here, but what I want you to do is look up something called Porter's 5 Forces. Porter's 5 Forces. And what that does is it starts to make you think of what the forces are that go on in a business, right? So in the very middle, it's the threats that an existing business has already got. Like it's already got its existing competitors and existing customers and everything else inside. So that's the competition that they're dealing with every day. Then they've got threat of substitutes. They've got threat of new entrants into the market. So threat of new entrants is what are the barriers to entry to getting into your line of work? The one that I come up with, it's pretty simple, is like landscaping or mowing lawns or cleaning, right? There's very low barrier to entry for that because anybody can, we could do that in the next 10 minutes. Get in that line of business, go buy some mops and some buckets and bam, we're in business, right? So I'm just saying, like, you have to think about the threat of new entrants into the market and also the threat of substitutes in the market. Cleaning, what's the threat of substitutes? The people can do it themselves. That's the threat of substitutes. You could say, hey, I'm coming over to clean your house. Like, oh, I cleaned it already. I'm good. Or I had my son do it for free. You see what I'm saying? So there's a threat of new entrants into the market, and there's also the threat of substitutes. Then you have the bargaining power of suppliers. Sorry, I'm going by memory here, so but you have bargaining power of suppliers, and you have the bargaining power of the vendors, of the suppliers. So now, what's their bargaining power? If you're trying to buy like an electric car 10 years ago, there wasn't much bargaining power. That's why Tesla came into the market selling cars for $250,000, because there really wasn't a whole lot of high performance electric vehicles out there. They were very low performing type of vehicles. So again, there really wasn't a lot of there was not a lot of competition, so that he could pretty much write a check or write a blank check. So I just want you to think about that in terms of, so look up Porter's 5 Forces, and that should help explain the answer to your question a little bit. But that's a really good point, because I want you to think about this. Like, what idea has merit? Sometimes you're just not going to know. But I'm telling you, like, when you test the market and you start testing it and you start seeing what value that people will place on things, That's when you really know something has, like, if you start asking people, hey, I was thinking about doing something like this, do you know anybody who might be interested? They'd be like, yeah, I'd be interested. That's how you know you've got something. And like I did that every time I wrote a book. This last book, I wrote 5 books last year. This is the biggest book the longest book, the 300-page book, The Time Wealthy Advantage. When I was putting this together, I said, hey, do you like this cover or this cover? And people are like, I like that cover. I'm like, is this a real book I'm putting out there? They're like, yeah. They're like, tell me when it's ready because I want to buy it. I'm like, oh, okay. Because I was telling them the premise of what the book was. So really, that market testing, it's a little bit beyond the scope of what I'm talking about today, but the Porter's 5 forces should help you really understand what's going on in terms of the market landscape. All right, so the R is a reporting function. Really good question, by the way. So when you're looking at reporting, the last piece of the Viper framework, you're looking at lead metrics and lag metrics. Lead metrics are just based on the actions and activities that you're going to be doing. Lag metrics are the results of those actions and activities. So this is going to be an important function when you're looking at putting down milestones inside your business plan. So when you're thinking about milestones, you're thinking about, okay, well, what milestones would I be looking for? I'm looking at milestones. It's like, okay, when I get to a certain point, I want to be here. I want to monetize my first customer within 18 months. I want to, hit profit within 24 months. I want to, right? So that could be milestones. So those are all metrics that you could be tracking. Lead metrics are just the actions and activities, which is defined by what? That's right, your daily 5 that we talked about in execution. Your lag metrics are just the results of those actions and activities. That's it. So you don't like the results of your actions and activities? Guess what? All you have to do, adjust your actions and activities. It's really all that simple. You might need a little bit of help with that. You might need some coaching. You might need a little bit more education or something. But really, generally, when you only have to look at your actions and activities, generally, it's because you didn't do enough of them. Most time people just give up way too early on in the process. All right, so that's the systems component. Now let's talk about the psychology. So we talked systems. Now let's talk psychology. Psychology is about the leadership and the management. Systems are incredibly important, but systems are only going to get you so far. So when you're looking, systems they offer stability, they offer consistency, and they certainly offer accountability. But systems are not designed to make subjective decisions. They're not designed to adapt to rapidly market changes, especially rapid market changes. Coming up with creative solutions is not really what a system is for. It's for stability more than anything else. And then also to maintain human connections. Like think of like a system like an autopilot. Would you want your autopilot jerking the plane up and jerking the plane down and jerking the plane back up again and rolling it left and rolling it right? No, you want it to be stable. That's the idea of an autopilot. So when you're thinking of psychology, you're thinking of this from the aspect of personal and individual psychology and business and organizational psychology. So when you're looking at personal and individual psychology, you're looking at things like self-worth, self-management, limiting beliefs, things like emotional intelligence, things like that. When you're looking at business and organizational psychology, you're looking from an external perspective and you're looking from an internal perspective. So let's look at those two things. From an external perspective, you're looking at first at like something like buying psychology, vendor psychology, which would also include like negotiations, and even something along the lines of politics. Yes, the politics I'm talking about, not office politics. I'm talking about the politics that everybody like wants to hate right now, especially in the US. This is what I'm talking about. And you think, well, how does politics have anything to do with my business? I'm telling you, you start becoming an employer, it's going to show up. It's going to show up on your radar, either in the form of asking people for you to support their political candidates or whatever. I'm telling you, that's the way it will show up. Your internal psychology is related around management and leadership. I'm going to spend just a hot second on leadership because I'm telling you, this absolutely matters when it comes to the growth of your organization. And I'm going to show you how here in just a second. The 3 pillar models of leadership. Now, I'm in a PhD program right now for organizational psychology. Probably be in it for the next 50 years. But anyway, it'll take me a while to get my PhD, and that's fine. But everything that I have looked at, when I have seen within my courses where we're discussing leadership, it comes down to these 3 pillars. It comes down to trust, it comes down to vision, and it comes down to communication. Trust, vision, and communication, all three of these things are absolutely necessary. So when you're looking at this, Carmen's giving me the hoot. All right, cool. Thank you. So when you're all three of these are absolutely necessary. You cannot be an effective leader if you have two of the three or one of the three or none of the three. If you must have all three. I'll give you an example. Let's say that you have an incredible vision for the future and you've really done well to enroll people into that vision. And let's say that you're an excellent communicator and you're able to have beautiful speeches and you're really able to get people dialed in and communicate, and you're communicating well and you communicate often, but people don't trust you. It will not matter. They are not going to follow you. You're not going to be an effective leader, especially not a strategic leader. Let's say that people trust you. Let's say, again, you've enrolled them into this vision. You've talked to them. You've brought them into this vision, and they trust you. They love the direction, but you're such a horrible communicator, or you don't communicate often enough, or you type in all caps, or you scream at people, or you drop F-bombs all the time. Again, if that's a person who doesn't resonate with that kind of communication style, you're not going to be effective as a leader. Let's say that they do trust you. Let's say that you're an amazing communicator, but you did not take time to enroll these people into a shared vision. You basically just told them what the vision was, and you basically led by megaphone, not by telephone. Do you understand what I mean by megaphone versus telephone? Telephone is two-way. Megaphone is one-way. That's not a shared vision. A shared vision is when, hey, this is the direction I'm thinking about going. Let me get your thoughts on that. I might not take your advice, but at least I've listened to your input. That is a shared vision. And that is what's going to make people an effective leader. So you have to have all three of these things. That's why I'm saying you need to have trust, you need to have vision, you need to have communication. You have to have all three. So you might be thinking, yeah, that sounds great. And this kind of put in that same bucket as core values, this squishy leadership thing. Does leadership really matter? I'm going to show you why leadership absolutely does matter. I'm writing my next book called The Time Wealthy Leader Boss. And the main premise behind Leader Boss is around trust, vision, and communication, but also because people struggle between caring and candor. Now, the people who tend to come and hang out with me, so I usually get a lot of people that join, and then usually about half or so drop off. They either hate my face, hate my voice, don't like what I'm saying, or maybe they just get busy, who knows. But whatever the reason is, what I tend to see is people who stick around and want to hang around me, they tend to have a lot more caring than they do candor. And I'll explain this. They care a lot about the people in their charge. They care a lot about people. The problem is when you're too caring and you don't have enough candor, people walk all over you. They take advantage of you. That was me. However, on the other hand, when you're just like, hey, look, these are the rules, you do the thing, show up, do your job, like, you have too much candor, but not enough caring. People are like, oh yeah, he doesn't care about me really. All he cares about is his business. All he cares about is money, right? When you get people like that and you have too much caring, you have too much candor and not enough caring, people will show up. They're not going to give you one extra ounce of discretionary effort, and don't ask them to show up early. Do not ask them to stay late, and don't even dare call them at home if you have any questions about what went on at work. So that's a problem. So I would argue that you need equal components of caring and candor between the two. So that's the premise of leadership. Jim Collins, who wrote several books, Good to Great, Great by Choice, Built to Last, he defined level 5 leaders. And John Maxwell also defined a level 5 leader. They have different definitions for level 5 leaders, but at the end of the day, a level 5 leader is someone who puts the organization first, someone who puts the customer first, someone who puts the employees and the associates first, ahead of them, ahead of the leader themselves. That's a level 5 leader. And these level 5 leader companies were tracked over the course of 30 years. And these companies were significantly more profitable. They were able to grow significantly faster. They had a stronger company culture, and guess what else they had? Oh my gosh, they had defined core values. Oh my God, it shows up again like a bad penny, like a damn rash. Okay, these are the companies. These are just a couple of companies that were tracked. Amgen, Intel, Microsoft, Southwest Airlines. You might recognize some of these companies, but the thing is, look at how fast they grew over the course of the 30 years in the market. 24 times the market. 24 times. Look at Southwest Airlines, 63 times the market. Imagine you put $1,000 in the market versus $1,000 in Southwest Airlines, you'd be 63 times richer. Not 63%, 63 times, multiple, right? And this is the reason why these companies also are representative of the 100 best places to work, and they frequently represent the highest stock returns because they have amazing company culture. So I'm telling you that leadership makes a huge difference. And because growth requires change, and I'm assuming that you want to grow your organization, growth requires change. Leadership is what manages that change. And many people have an antagonistic relationship with change. And that's the problem, is the discomfort. They have the discomfort of suffering is more tolerable than the discomfort of change. And because they're more willing to tolerate suffering more than change, they stay stuck. That's one of the main reasons why companies have trouble growing. I see all these gurus coming up and saying, oh yeah, you get stuck at 5 million because you have this problem. No, it probably is not that problem. It probably is because people inside the organization haven't changed. And guess what? Either they need to change or their names need to change, if you're following my drift. And that's the problem. And you also have to recognize that the speed of the leader is the speed of the team. The team cannot outpace the leader. So if you're someone who takes forever to make decisions, I'm telling you, you're going to really struggle if you're trying to grow your business rapidly. So that is all around the people and psychology component to the S&P method and the S&P framework. Okay, so now let's talk about the 4 core functions. The 4 core functions have to be true in every single business. And the 4 core functions are as follows. They're lead generation, sales, operations, and accounting. And your company's journey, your client's journey through your company happens in that order. So I want you to think about they are initiated to your company through lead generation. The sales loop is closed because of the lead generation. They walk into the sales component. Their operations and fulfillment function is whatever it is, whatever you do, right? If you build websites or build cars or whatever you do, you practice law. That's important. So then you have the accounting function, which is where people where you're either collecting money or you're paying the bills. Enrique is saying, lead, follow, or get out of the way. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes these people who are holding you back or getting in your way, especially if they're getting in the way of change, sometimes they need to exit your organization. And I'm not trying to be a jerk about it, but that does require leadership, because you do owe that to the people in your organization who are willing to stick around and keep things going. So, very good. Thank you, Carmen. Duffy McJackson. Hey, Jack. Good to see you. I got it memorized, Mark. Very good. All right, perfect. All right. Do you have your JJ did tie buckle? We're talking about 15 leadership traits from the Marine Corps. This is a buddy of mine who's in the Marine Corps. So justice, judgment, decisiveness, integrity, dependability, tact, initiative, endurance, bearing, unselfishness, courage, knowledge, loyalty, enthusiasm. So those are the things that we're looking at. So, okay. So, good to see you. Please subscribe, like, lurk, and watch all the way through. Use the chat to ask more questions. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that. Thanks, Sarah. Very good. Great framework. I appreciate it, man. SMEAC, BAMSIS. Okay. I'm not getting into all those. Yeah, all right. So, I'll let you guys look those up. All right, so the framework here for the 4 core functions, these have got to be true in every single business. And those 4 core functions, I want you to think about how the Viper framework, the vision, the infrastructure, the process, how all of that works in every single one of those 4 core functions. What's your vision for your lead generation? What infrastructure do you need for your lead generation? What processes do you need for your lead generation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? And do that through sales, do that through operations, do that through accounting. And that's how you apply the Viper framework to the 4 core functions. Make sense? All right, so let's get to the next component of this. We'll keep things rolling. We're talking about set to scale and actually controlling growth. So when you're looking at everything from a lead generation perspective, this is about targeting your client avatar. And when I have my client avatar really dialed in, I know exactly who I want to work with, and it's much easier for me to direct my marketing towards these individuals. Plus, I get the clients with the most amount of money who bring me the least amount of problems. Anybody really want to sign up for drama? I don't know about you, but that is not where I'm at in this point in my life. I'm 53 years old. I am trying to reduce drama in my life. So I want you to think about that in terms of the client avatar and really dialing in on your lead generation piece. I'm going to put these 15 reasons up why people buy. I'm going to give you an opportunity to take a screenshot here. Take myself off the screen and get a nice healthy sip of H2O. All right. So these are the 15 reasons why people buy. And the reason why you want to know these they're going to buy because they want to make money. They buy because they're going to want to save money or save time or avoid effort or escape physical pain or emotional pain or sometimes spiritual pain. They will buy for more comfort. They will buy for better health. And better health can be the form of less stress, by the way. They will buy to feel more love from the people in their life. They will buy to gain praise so they can feel more important, increase their status, right? And feel more important. They will buy for truth, and they will especially buy for truth if they have felt lied to in the past. They will buy for growth, and that could be, again, spiritual growth, emotional growth, the growth in their knowledge. They'll buy for novelty, just again, because something is new and improved, a new process, a new approach. They'll buy for more perceived control, or they'll buy to be in contribution to others. So here's your homework. Here's what I want you to do. And this is going to help you establish your approach with your target audience. I want you to take each of these 15 reasons, write make money at the top of a piece of paper. And I want you to come up with as many ways that your product or service helps them make money, directly or indirectly. How does your product or service, directly or indirectly, help them make more money? Now, let's say for argument's sake that, Carmen is like, well, my product or service doesn't directly help people make money. Okay, how about indirectly? Like if I was able to solve a problem for them, let's say I mowed lawns. Do I help people make money directly? Well, not directly, but indirectly, because it would normally take them an hour and a half to mow their lawn, and they are an attorney that bills at $300 an hour or 300 pounds an hour. Now they're like, okay, well, I just basically made them $450 in that period of time of mowing their lawn. Make sense? That's how I want you to think of these. And I want you to do the same thing for saving money and saving time and avoiding effort, escaping pain, and for more comfort and for truth, for growth, for novelty. I want you to do that for all of them. And if let's say you come up with 10 reasons under each one of these things, you're going to have 150 different reasons why people are going to want to do business with you. And I know some of them are going to be a little wonky, but don't just dismiss the wonky ones. Put them down, write them down, get a little creative. And that is one of the best things that you can do to help identify. Now, again, you can't do this if you don't have your client avatar defined. But once you do, this is going to help you in your targeting. This is going to help you in your outreach. This is going to help you when you're planning on reaching out and your marketing with people, right? Obviously, it's going to help you in your strategic planning. So that is the 15 reasons why people buy. So once you understand, again, everything needs to support your lead generation function. Everything. You have to be spending a lot of time in your lead generation function. And again, if it's you just doing this by yourself, I'm telling you, probably 60 to 70% minimum of your activity has to be around lead generation. And here's the reason. Because you can have the best, most efficient business. You can be an absolute paragon of truth, justice, and virtue. Your sales technique so dialed in, you could sell voting booths to Castro and ice to Eskimos, and you could still starve. That's the truth. So you can never, ever, ever take your foot off the gas when it comes to lead generation activities. And like I was saying, your lead generation activities need to be at least 60 to 70% of your overall activities if you're in a growing organization. If it's you by yourself and you're working a 10-hour day, yeah, that means 6 to 7 hours minimum of your day is going to be spent on lead generation activities. So you got to be thinking about what this looks like in terms of lead generation. You've got to be really specific about what those activities are going to be, and you've got to be dialed in and very disciplined to make sure that those are getting done every single day. So then from the lead generation function goes to the sales function. Now, this is just what continues the conversation after the lead is already brought into the organization. And really, you just understand that effective selling is about finding solutions. I did a one-to-one sales masterclass not too long ago, and I'm actually getting ready to do a 90-day challenge with the people within my community around selling and how to specifically sell well, specifically one-to-one selling. And it really understands that effective selling is about finding solutions, not holding people's heads under water until they say yes. That's not selling. That's being a bully. So again, it's just conversational, and that's all it is. So the operational function is, if you're going to get stuck, it's whatever it is you do, right? The operational function is whatever the deliverable is. So if you're going to get stuck, generally, this is where most people get stuck, especially for people in the operational function. So you have to have this well defined. This is where the core purpose comes into play. You have to know specifically what that is, and generally try to extract yourself from that operation as quick as you possibly can. The last component is accounting. And generally, if you're going to ignore one of the 4 core functions, this is the one that gets ignored. Okay? And generally, it sounds something like this. Well, I've got more money in my bank account this month than last month. I must be doing okay. And that's generally what happens. So I'm just telling you, if you're really planning on being strategic and you're really planning on making a business and not just a side hustle, this is probably the difference. And I know, Enrique, I think you asked the question, what's probably the biggest difference between a hobby and a business plan, or something that you're planning in business? It's probably the accounting function. Because the accounting function is really going to hold you accountable to making sure that you have lead generation and sales, and it's operating efficiently, and that you're actually making money. That's probably one of the biggest lines in the sand, in my opinion. So let me ask you, are all 4 of these things the same skill set? No, it's not. You don't even have to answer that. Of course, we know the lead generation and sales, they're similar, but not the same. Operations, it depends on the business, obviously, but those are not the same thing. And accounting is very different. So this is why you need to be bringing in people into your organization who are what? Yeah, that's right. So they're aligned with your core values. Remember, core values are what define company culture. And again, the company culture and the company brand share an inextricable link. And the other thing is that when you have core values in the organization is what creates unity. And your vision will thrive in an environment of unity and unification. And that's what a good leader does. So we covered the systems, we covered the psychology, we covered the 4 core functions, we talked about scaling. Now let's talk about some resources in the business plan. So for those of you who are interested in the business plan, I'm going to give you the template here in just a second. So what you're going to do, all of these 9 areas, the industry, the product or service, the target market, the demographics and market size, the competition, again, all of these things we've discussed. We've discussed the industry and your core purpose. We've discussed the product or service, again, in your core purpose. We discussed the target market and your client avatar. We discussed the demographics and the market size, again, partly in the client avatar. Again, the demographics with the geographics, demographics, and psychographics. We talked a little bit about competition, not a whole lot, because that would be more along the strategic planning, especially if I want to see and size up my competition. What other threats do I have? In terms of marketing strategy, again, that goes into the strategic planning part of purpose, or the strategic planning part of process. You got the critical risks or SWOT analysis, that's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Financial, this is where you're actually going to do pro forma balance sheets and pro forma income statements. Pro forma just means future, so don't get too hung up. If you're not familiar enough with those, I do offer a class on financial literacy for business owners. If you are interested, there's a whole webinar series, or just there's several webinars that are posted on YouTube, or you can just sign up for the next one that I have for the financial literacy for business owners. And then, of course, the metrics and milestones, which we talked about in the R component of the Viper framework, which is your lead metrics and your lag metrics. So here's what I want you to do. To get a copy of this for free, you're going to head over to strategicboardroom.com. Okay. I'm going to do this a couple of times because everyone asked me, can you do this again? So I'll do it twice. So I'm going to take myself down so you can see there. You're going to go to strategicboardroom.com. All right. So from there, this is going to be the website. Now, I know if you're on your phone, it's not going to look like this, so you have to click the hamburger. But basically what you're looking for is in the top right for courses and logins. So I'm going to flash it on there, courses and logins. Make sense? Okay. So courses and logins, that's where you're going to be going, is courses and logins on top. Then you're going to, that'll open up to this page, and you're going to scroll down just a little to where it says free courses and downloads. So you got to scroll down just a little, and it's right there that says free 9-step business plan template. Okay, so let me go through this one more time in case anybody was multitasking. So you're going to go to strategicboardroom.com. This will be the page. You're going to go to courses and logins at the top right. You're going to scroll down to where it says free courses and downloads. And the first section right under free courses and downloads is the free 9-step business plan template. You don't have to enter your email or anything. You just click on it, download it. Bob's your uncle. All right. So from there, what I want to do is I just want to offer you guys this. There's a couple of things that I have. This does have a cost to it. I'm not trying to sell you anything that you don't necessarily need, but if you are interested, I've got 3 different levels in there, and just for right now, the cheapest level right now is $39. It gives you access to me and group trainings just like this, but this one's free, but I have all sorts of other trainings that I do, and I'm going to answer questions to everybody that's in the group that's got questions. And I'm still working out the schedule in this. So if you are interested, there's a whole host of trainings inside in the classroom and other things that you can do while we're setting that all up in terms of the structure of how often I'm going to be doing this. I'm thinking it's probably going to be at least twice a week if I had to guess, and probably some pop-up stuff here and there. I've been looking for a community, for a platform like this for quite a while so I can create this community. I used to do it on Facebook, and I just really do not like Facebook groups anymore. Facebook just does a horrific job of burying groups, and anytime you're trying to host something, it just makes it difficult. So this is really, really good. I like this. So I'm just letting you know it's $39. And if you are in it, I'll even give you a 90-day money-back guarantee. If you're in it and you think it was a complete waste of time, it wasn't worth the money, I'll give you every dollar of your investment back, because I really don't want people to be thinking that it was not it wasn't something that they saw value in. So anyway, I will let you make the decision there. If anybody has any questions, I'll hang around for just a hot second, and otherwise we will put the fries in the bag. All right. Looks like I don't have getting some people hopping off. All right. All good. Well, thanks so much for sticking around. I don't see any questions. Carmen is saying thank you. You are more than welcome. Thank you. Thank you, John. Good to see you, man. Okay. That looks like it's a wrap. All right, everybody. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you guys in the boardroom. Take good care.